I have had something in my heart that I've really wanted to focus on and share for a long time, like many years, and recently it's been coming to the surface. And what that is basically a healing memoir. What I am intending to do is to share uncut, totally raw, one story a month, a super personal, transformational story. There's always a point to it, always a learning in it, but without editing it first, like sending a rough draft on video and sharing the process with you. And by the end of 13 months or so, I should have my memoir rough draft done. I'm breaking through my comfort zone. I'm want to vomit when I think about this, to be honest. Oh my God, because they're just stories that are in process. Like if I send them uncut and unedited and I haven't been able to get my full clear point across, there's concern that it'll be misconstrued or whatever the fears are, right? And since I am a huge advocate of being your own champion of yourself and your message and your truth, regardless of how it lands for other people, I need to step it up in my game and be honest and truthful with what's present for me now. And there's this kind of wild, messy artist that's not perfect and polished with everything that I do. So I ask you to join me on this journey once a month. I'm going to be posting a video here. I'm definitely posting the first one here, but it's quite possible, just because of my own comfort level, that I will only be posting the rest on my newsletter on veronicacresto.com. So if you want to be, get weekly videos from me, Treasure Tuesdays, and know about upcoming events and receive all my fun bonus gifts like this behind the scenes, as I write my memoir, then I invite you to join me at veronicacresto.com. But I'm going to share the first one, chapter 1, totally uncut, here and now. It was my first take. It is totally raw, and this is my mission, to start getting more and more comfortable speaking raw without needing to make it perfect. I appreciate you for holding this space for me. And if you do have any feedback, because obviously this is uncut, what I'm about to share with you, feel free to write in the comments, like if you need clarification on something, because as a writer that's helpful once I put it into the book format to know, obviously it's going to be way edited from what you're about to see, but if you have any questions or ideas, feel free to share them in the comments. All right, my friends, all my love, and thank you for being on this journey with me. Enjoy chapter 1. All right, so I have signed up. I've been chosen to get on stage on November 7th and share my story. Boom. I'm in the process now. I worked with the producer of the event that I'm sharing my story at, and she has me working with these different elements within my story to really clarify and get into a defining moment that just, boom, brings the point home within 8 minutes. This feels really challenging to me, and so I probably won't post this video, but I'm just making it as practice ground for me. And if I do post it, it's because our stories matter. True stories have the power to transform. Your scars are someone else's signs of hope, someone else's sign of possibility, and the things that we get through in our lives and constructively move through, and the perspective that awakens, the constructive perspective that allows us to move through into a whole new, brighter reality, can help somebody who's still on their knees in a very similar predicament. So if you have a story in your heart and you want to share it, I highly encourage you to. I highly encourage making YouTube videos. It's why I created Mindful YouTube University. But for this video, and for the sake of my own clarity and the power of this story on November 7th, sharing it as clearly as possible, I'm going to share with you my personal story. I have some bullet points, but I'm just going to roll with it and see what comes out. Why is this so nerve-wracking? Why? need my crystal. I need my diamond crystal to get this accomplished. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna see what comes through me. I'm gonna drop the bullet points and just see what source wants to move through me rather than what's written in chapter 1 of my book or what's on these bullet points. One of the most powerful ways to discover your authentic voice is to just show up without an agenda and share. Make videos without the intention of posting them, and it just feels very safe, and then you'll notice something else entirely pops out. All right, I invite your breath and your light and your presence. My higher self, I invoke my soul, I invoke the higher part of me to come through here and now and share what has the power to not only transform me into the next level of freedom and inspiration and well-being, but those who are witnessing. You see, I was just a little girl. I was 2 years old when my mother was taken away in a straitjacket. That's right, it was the 80s, and they still use those crazy things for crazy people to go into crazy bins so that they didn't have to be hindrances on all of us normal people, normal bystanders. What is normal? Who is normal? What is crazy? Who is not crazy? For being in a human body, in the human flesh, is automatically indicative of duality. Of this and that, of yes and no, of who am I don't fucking know. You see, the mind is divided, and so are we, so long as we reside in the mind and believe everything that it says we need to be. You need to be pretty, you need to be ugly, you need to fit in, you need to be dumb, you need to stand out, you need to be smart, girl. What do I believe? Should I stay small just to fit into a world that's mediocre? Or should I be big and bold in all that I know that I'm here to be, at the risk of being, that's right, crazy? Because those who can't hear the music see those who are dancing as crazy. So do I dance? Or do I crumble? You see, when I was a little girl and I saw my mother tied up in a straitjacket and taken out of the house, I realized then and there that by God, she's a woman and I'm a woman, or a little girl who will become a woman someday, and I do not want to be her. I do not want to be taken away from my family. And then I looked to my father, who was, ironically, the sharpest contrast to my mother. Stable, clear, kind, peaceful. My mother's very kind, by the way. Just making a point here. Still and loyal and predictable to a fault. I looked to my father and I thought, he's a provider, he's safe. My security depends on pleasing him. For if I were to go in the direction of being this wild woman that I innately am, I'll be taken away just like my mother. And so my 2-year-old mind innocently chose to tuck all the messy parts, all the wildness, all the pain, all the fear, all the suffering, all the tears, and wipe them away. Slate them clean, and look life in the eye with a bravery and a stability and a clarity and a purity and a positive mindset, just like my father. And so I spent the next 25 years doing everything I could to ensure that no one ever placed a straitjacket on me, ever labeled me as crazy, ever looked at me with that same terror that I looked at my mother that day. The only problem was I was already in a straitjacket. It was just invisible. I had placed my wings inside a tough predicament. Everything I was here to be, I couldn't be because my hands were tied. Everything I was here to become, I couldn't even discover because I was so busy trying to please my father, who I love with all my heart. And so you see, the journey began when I finally decided that I would create the perfect life. And if I could create the perfect life, I could emulate my perfect father. And if I could emulate my perfect father, I could rest assured that my life would be everything that I knew it could be. That I would belong, that I would be safe, that I would have my own family. A family that would never throw me away. But the problem with that was that I created such a flawless image. The perfect yoga body, the bright eyes and the amazing wardrobe and the friendships and the community being the center stage of everyone I knew. Even studying with cutting-edge teachers and spiritual leaders and pioneers who were teaching me how to be the greatest version of myself. I even met the most amazing soul and was on the verge of marriage with him after 6 years of being together. But it wasn't until I finally, and that was the final checklist, perfect body, career, education, spiritual path, community, marriage, and then children. Oh my God, marriage. I couldn't do that. Something in me just couldn't say yes to the man I loved with all of my heart. And I didn't know why. And the irony was that the more beautiful my life became with him, my friends, my work, my body, my everything, the uglier I felt inside. I felt like a monster, trapped in the guise of a goddess, and I couldn't escape myself. It was so utterly painful that everything finally reached its peak when I decided I had to get married. I had to finally say yes and declare the life that I knew I had to live in order to belong to a world that didn't understand me at all. How could they? I didn't understand myself, but I knew that this is the world, right? So I have to find my place in it. And so I had checked it all off the list, and it was time to say yes. So one day I mustered up all of my courage and all of my strength, and I wrote 3 letters in paint on a beautiful card. Y-E-S. Yes, I'll marry you. I can do it. And ironically, a beautiful rainbow appeared that day confirming, yes, yes. Say yes to this life that you know you can live. Say yes to the happiness. Say yes to the marriage. Say yes to the family you're here to create. The moment I put the paint to the page and completed the final stroke of that yes, and met my beloved at the time with that yes to his proposal, it was then that the final straw dropped and I finally cracked. Within 24 hours, I exploded. The monster that was buried inside of me, who was painted over and over again behind polish and beauty and veneer and smiles, was fuming. It was not going to be buried deeper inside of me at the cost of its freedom. Because what I realized is that no matter how hard I tried, the wildness within me could not be tamed. And just like the wildness within my mother could not be tamed, I too had to find a way to set myself free. And so that next day, my fiance for those 24 hours and I were sitting on this beautiful wooden bench on the coast of Mendocino, California, my favorite place on earth, with a heart carved in to the wood, which was settled right between us. And from a distance, we probably looked like the perfect pair under the sun. But inside, I was dying. Inside, I was screaming. And that scream began to come through in my words and in my voice and in my ferocious rage. Yeah, I felt rage towards the man I loved, and I didn't know why. I just felt it, and I couldn't hold it back anymore. I just kept going on and on and on about how angry I was, but I didn't know why. And so he was saying one thing and I was saying another, and we just weren't meeting. Again, it was this cycle that we had met in the past. And I just couldn't. I just felt so disconnected. And I'll never be able to explain this feeling, but I will try right here and now. And I've never shared this publicly. On that bench that day, on the cliffs of the gorgeous, wild, unapologetic Pacific Ocean, in the crux of this fight with the man I loved, a part of me ejected out of myself and literally ran out of my body and leapt off the cliff and into those waters. It was terrifying because the force was so powerful, I wasn't sure if my physical body would go with it or not. And this part of my soul was in the water saying, no, I will not subscribe to this life. No, I will not hide anymore. No, I will not try and be anything other than what I am. I'm not the pretty, perfect girl you think I am. I'm so much more. And so my soul paddled out, or at least part of it paddled out into the distant horizon and kept going and going and going. And I'll never forget the rage within me. The further that part of me disappeared, the softer the rage became, until I realized and knew distinctively that I had to leave my whole life behind right when I reached the pinnacle of my life. Yes to the proposal, a life of traveling the world in private planes with the man I loved with all of my heart, looking at gorgeous exotic places and exploring adventure, having everything at my fingertips, infinite resources, infinite love. Just like that, I let it go as I pushed some part of me off of the cliff and removed the entire me out of the life I had built for 6 years. And so this is the beginning of a journey of going back in time and looking that 2-year-old in the eyes and saying, honey, you can share everything you want to share with me. And so I invested actually 9 months, really to 1.5 years, but 9 solid months of deep introspection and doing what I call medicinal dialogue, and allowing the little girl inside of me to express everything that she so devotedly tucked away inside of herself and buried in order to be loved and accepted And so for all that time, I finally realized that, wow, I misunderstood everything in that 2-year-old moment. I decided that in order to be loved, in order to be accepted, in order to belong, in order to be safe, I had to be perfect. And so it was my duty as a mother, as a true mother of my own soul, as the midwife of my soul, as the mother of my inner child, to reparent her, to open the floodgates, to let her share everything she really needed to share. Her craziness, her wildness, her pain, her suffering, her beauty, her ugliness. There's nothing ugly about her. There's nothing ugly about you. There's nothing ugly about any of us. The only ugliness exists in the idea that we're ugly, or that something is not worthy, or that we just don't belong, or something's wrong with us. And so, as bitter and painful as it was to leave my life behind, it was equally sweet to embrace the life with the me that I knew that I was here to be. But it took loving that little girl inside and out, to slowly, naturally, organically, sustainably bloom into the woman, the queen, the butterfly, really, that I'm here to be. And so today I look back on my life and I realize that sometimes as kids we make silly choices, not because we mean to, but because we don't have the faculties yet to see clearly. We don't have the faculties yet to realize that all parts of ourselves, just like a diamond, every facet of who we are is valuable. And so rather than trying to be perfect, what I discovered in embracing this little girl inside who's wildly colorful and multifaceted, shy one day and excited the next day, buried in grief one day and on top of the moon the next, angry in one moment and an angel in the next, was that all of these facets are just like a shining diamond. It's what makes up the flawlessness of that diamond, the uniqueness, the pricelessness. Every facet is necessary. Every breath we take is an opportunity to love and embrace the whole of ourselves. And in so doing, we don't just wake up the full spectrum of who we are, we wake up the truth of who we are. So what all that pain and suffering did for me is it led me to the me that could actually be the one who could embrace it all, who could be the one who could witness the ups and the downs and the ups and the downs with the same steadiness that I so admired in my father. So although my mother and my father couldn't be together, what I realized is they had me. And in me, I am the living, breathing example of both of their magnificence. My mother's wildness, coupled with my father's steadiness. And that integration, that is the alchemy that births diamonds. You see, it takes extreme heat and pressure to birth something as priceless as a diamond, as rare and precious as a diamond. And so I leave you with this story, with my heart out on the table, to invite you to look at any of your struggles as opportunities to birth the treasure that you are, and that what you may consider as ugly, I invite you to rethink and renegotiate. Because the truth is, every facet of who you are is beautiful. And not just beautiful. Priceless. I love you with all of my heart. Thank you for witnessing me, and I invite you to take a breath and feel what it feels like to witness another's story and see how tragedies can lead to triumph, how challenges are opportunities for awakening, and how triggers are actually treasures.